Start with a roll call.
Mendoza,
Here.
Hernandez,
Here.
Lindsay Ryan,
Here.
Halpern,
Present.
Tanya Vudi,
Here.
Cartha,
Here. So, thank you again for joining us. Once again, we are meeting virtually as a result of the current coronavirus crisis and pursuant to the March executive order from Governor Pritzker allowing virtual meetings. We'll start off. Adila, do we have any?
We do not have anyone signed up to speak.
Okay, so just as a reminder, while we are meeting virtually, there is an opportunity for members of the public who wish to address the board to submit comments via email to the board secretary by 4 p.m. on board meeting days, and we can read those out. And please keep in mind that comments can always be submitted to the school board via email at schoolboard@district65.net. We have a few action items and then a couple of quick discussion items today. I do just want to quickly note that today's meeting was originally scheduled to be a policy committee meeting. We have switched it to a special board meeting because given the things that are going on, we did need to have a few action items that we needed to take. And for to comply with the spirit of the executive order to minimize the overall number of meetings, and also just for technological reasons, not to have two separate meetings, we decided to combine one special board meeting with included some of the policy discussions that we were going to have. We are also, given the crisis and given the virtual meeting and knowing that we want to still be as transparent as possible and understanding that that is not, that virtual meetings are not always accessible to everybody. We wanted to make sure that we are keeping our meetings as lean as possible, really only voting on the things we need to vote on, and keeping discussion items to just what we really feel needs to be discussed to move on. So you'll notice that there are some things that are FYI that we were initially going to be discussing more fully at the policy committee meeting, but we are moving those to FYI, and if we feel at a later date that we can open it up for a fuller discussion, we can do that. And we are currently in the process, given now, especially the extension of the school closing to the end of this academic year, we will update the board calendar once we figure out what the agenda is for the remaining meetings for the year will look like. So with all of that, Heidi or Phil, did you have any comments that you wanted to share before we move into our action items?
Not at this point, no. You covered it very well, Suni.
Okay, well, great. And then, so with that, we can go straight first into our first action item, which is related to an appeal under the Uniform Grievance Procedure. I move that the Board of Education affirm the interim superintendent's findings as set forth in the letters of finding dated February 25th, 2020 and March 9th, 2020.
Second.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Lindsay Ryan,
Yes.
Halpern,
Yes.
Tanya Vudi,
Yes.
Cartha,
Yes. Then next, I move that the Board of Education affirm the interim superintendent's findings as set forth in the letters of finding dated March 3rd, 2020.
Second.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Lindsay Ryan,
Yes.
Halpern,
Yes.
Tanya Vudi,
Yes.
Cartha,
Yes. And then we have two more action items related to contract amendments with our transportation companies. Really quickly, Raphael, do you want to just give an overview of what those amendments are?
Yes. Once the governor decided to close school in March, a determination was made to continue to pay our main transportation provider, Positive Connection, as well as Compass, that provides transportation to our Head Start, early Head Start population. So what we are trying to do is to ensure that these two firms are paid as a way to reimburse their employee. So it would be a payroll reimbursement payment so that these folks will continue to get paid. Ordinarily, they will work from the start of the school year till the end of the school year. So what this contract calls for is for these employees to continue to get paid until June 2nd, at which time they will do what they normally do, which is go on unemployment until they are called back during the start of the school year. The only difference is summer school. So employees who would ordinarily be paid for summer school, they will continue to get paid for summer school, which we anticipate will end by July 15th. After that, they'll go back on unemployment, and then they'll be called back whenever we start school. And there are provisions in the agreement, which is why it took so long to sign, which is that it was going to be purely reimbursement for individual employees of those companies that provide direct services to our contract and nothing else. Additionally, there's a language in there to protect us in case these firms get CARES money or any other reimbursement from a governmental entity. If they were to do that, any money that we pay them for them to pay their payroll, to fund their payroll, will be refunded back to the district.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you very much for negotiating with both of those companies. I know that you spent a significant time working out these details and making sure that our the bus drivers who we don't directly employ, but who obviously work in support of our students, that they are taken care of during this time. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions?
And I also want to point out that once we reach an agreement, I believe about a week ago, those employees were actually called back. So they're being paid retroactive to I believe March 13th, the last day of school, and they will continue to get paid going forward.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, I just had one question and one comment. Raphael, thank you so much for your work on that. There are several of our bus drivers from Positive Connections that I know that are members of our community. So just wanted to thank you on behalf of those families. My second question is I don't know if there's supposed to be a 5th page to the Compass contract where it doesn't state the number of employees like the Positive Connections, and just wanted to know if we know the number of Compass, or we just didn't want to list that.
We just didn't want to list that. The employees who were providing services to district before we closed prematurely, those are the ones that we're going to pay. I think with Compass were more amenable to getting this contract signed. So the negotiation was easier. So we didn't have to feel like we have to spell everything out so clearly. With Positive Connection, it was a little different. We wanted to make sure that we didn't miss anything. There was no misunderstanding as far as the expenditures that we agreed to reimburse them. That's the reason for the difference.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you for that. I think, Joey, you have the motion on these, and I think we can go ahead and do both of them successively. So if you want to go ahead, Joey.
I move that the Board of Education approve the amendment to the agreement for transportation services with Positive Connections in substantially the form of the contract presented to the board.
Second.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Lindsay Ryan,
Yes.
Hilpern,
Yes.
Tanya Booty,
Yes.
Cartha,
Yes. And then Joey, do you want to go ahead and do the Compass one as well?
Sure, thank you. As you know, board, we've been working
Oh,
very,
wait, hold on, Phil. I think we have to do one more.
oh, you're
We have to do
right.
the Compass.
Yes,
I move that the Board of Education approve the amendment to the agreement for transportation services with Compass Transportation in substantially the form of the contract presented to the board.
Second.
Mendoza? Welcome back. Hernandez?
Yes.
Lindsay Ryan?
Yes.
Halpern?
Yes.
Tanya Booty?
Yes.
Cartha?
Yes.
And Mendoza. Okay. Oh, so that's 5.
Did you get, well, did you get Rebecca?
Mendoza?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think she just didn't hear you before.
Oh,
So,
okay.
great.
6-0. Okay.
Thank you for that. Okay, so with that, those are our action items. We'll move on to our discussion items. We really, we have one primary discussion item today. Like I said before, we were trying to move most discussion items to either other meetings or figure out different ways to communicate them, given that not everyone has access to these virtual meetings. But this discussion item around gender supports, given that we have taken a little time to get here, we did not want to postpone being able to discuss this and see how we're moving forward on that. So with that, Phil, did you want to give us an introduction?
yeah, thank you, Cindy. As you stated, there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of heavy lifting that the groups have done, both for the staff and the students. And we're pleased to have with us tonight Joaquin and Romy, who will give you an update of the work that has been done during that time. Who would like to start for us?
Thank you, Phil. Beatrice is going to lead us off, and then Romy and I will continue.
Thank you, Joaquin. Yeah, so there, as Phil mentioned, there has been quite a bit of work done this school year on both the staff and student gender supports. And so I'm here to speak to some of the work that's been done for the staff supports. There was a committee that was convened in November of 2019. And as part of the work, the committee finalized administrative procedures to make sure that we're accommodating and supporting our transgender and gender non-conforming employees. In terms of the groundwork for this, a lot of the groundwork was laid during the spring of 2018. There was a team of both District 65 educators as well as administrators who started to put some information together. So when our team convened, we really used that as a starting point. And then finalize that document. And so the document does have several different components. Most importantly is that it reiterates the district's goal to foster a safe and supportive environment that's free of discrimination for all of our staff, regardless of their gender identity or expression. And then there are some other pieces to it. So it includes definitions associated with gender identity. It talks about the confidentiality rights for employees. It talks about the rights to request to have a name change and what that looks like, what the district can accommodate and what the district cannot accommodate. It speaks to the use of pronouns, rights related to being able to transition and create a plan for that if they would like to, access to facilities, the dress code. So it's pretty extensive. The latter part is very important because it speaks to training and professional development that needs to be ongoing for all staff, staff administrators, and then with regards to accountability as well. So it's not just that employees are accountable and need to be adhering to these procedures and the board policies, but that also as an administration that we're enforcing the procedures and the board policies. As part of this document, the committee also approved a gender support plan template, as well as a template if someone is transitioning while they are a District 65 employee. Those are options for people that they can avail themselves to, recognizing that everyone's experience is different. We want to be as supportive as possible. If plans are created, those plans are created with the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, the building principal, obviously the employee, and the employee can bring in additional support if they choose to. And then all those plans remain confidential in the employee's file and can be updated as the employee may feel is necessary. So that's quite a bit of work that was accomplished this year. With regards to next steps, we are continuing to work with Nikki Baser, who has been really deeply involved in this committee and facilitated much of the work. And we're working to schedule a virtual training to take place with all of our administrators. We initially had a training scheduled for the end of March, but due to current circumstances, that had to be canceled and rescheduled. So we are working on having that done so that once the training is done, we can, again, we can roll out these procedures to the staff, and then recognize that we will need to commit to additional training so that everyone is very clear on what the expectations are, but also what the supports are as well. And then Romy D. Cristofaro was going to give an update on where they are with the supports for students. And then Joaquin's going to share a little more about training and next steps as well.
Thank you, Beatrice. Hi,
Thank
everyone.
you.
So first, Joaquin and I served on the district student gender support committee, and I think we'd like to just acknowledge that we had a really strong, dedicated and talented group of educators and administrators that worked with us. So together, I think we were able to accomplish quite a bit in a short amount of time. As you saw in the memo, we've only met 7 times, and we're able to just knock a lot of things out. One of the key accomplishments was updating the administrative procedures for student gender support, which was attached to the memo, and it's also available on our website. Included in the procedures is an updated version of the gender support plan. Our group worked closely with our social work department, registration and records, and district attorneys to make those updates. The updated gender support plan emphasizes really following the student lead, and it addresses parent-guardian involvement, student safety, student records, facility use and extracurriculars, additional considerations, and then also a process for monitoring the plan over time. To be clear, the gender support plans are not required, but they're available for students who want them. The committee also worked to ensure the gender support school coordinators were identified at each building and that they had the training they needed to be able to support the students, staff, and families at their schools. All of our school coordinators participated in a deep dive training with Lori's and a follow-up meeting as a group where we spent time further clarifying their roles, responsibilities, and discussing potential scenarios. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Joaquin, who will share more about training and communication plans.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, Romy. So the training this year for the training LGBTQ plus gender identity training by Lurie's Children's Hospital, we shared in the memo the professional learning plan that was put together. All of our DEC members have been trained on how to support students who identify as LGBTQ plus, and then the focus of the PD was specifically on gender identity. Our plans that Romy just mentioned, again, facilitated by Lurie's Children's Hospital. Once we were moving to our other stakeholder groups, starting with all of our paraprofessionals, we had one in-service training. We split up the paraprofessionals into thirds. We had a third of the parapros at Shoot. And so after that in-service training, the second was going to happen as soon as COVID hit. And so we moved to an online platform that's also part of the memo with Zoom links for all the trainings that are upcoming for our paraprofessionals. Also upcoming is going to be our health clerks and our building secretaries, our second floor JEH district staff, our school-age childcare, our custodial maintenance. We're going to have 2 other part 2 sessions for our DEC staff and 2 sessions for our parents. So comprehensive, definitely want to move our platform online to ensure that all of us have access to that learning. I'm hearing some feedback from someone. If we can have everyone mute their mic, sorry. So the training is continuing. Again, the professional development is focused on and relate to gender and LGBTQ identities, review best practices to create gender inclusive environments, practical tools implementing gender inclusive within our school community. Training covered our gender support board policies, procedures, student gender support plans, and process for advocating for students. The communication that was sent out via letter to our families and caregivers and staff was on the 18th, February 18th, that Romy was referring to. And this was to update our community on student gender support plans, shared updated gender support procedures, connect our community with the updated website for resources, essential documents for gender support plans. In that communication, we also created and shared an FAQ titled Supporting Transgender and Gender Expansive Students. The cheesy smile you see on my face is the work that Melissa put into this. It's a great document. Please take a look at that. It's a really good one-pager to connect our staff and families to resources. So again, these updates were sent out to our community. There was a communication sent out in November of 2019 internally. And so the February 18th update was broader to our internal staff and external staff of everything and all the work that Romy had mentioned that this incredible team that I was fortunate to be a part of was able to build out together. And so the next steps that we see are, since the procedures and policies have been updated, the two groups, the district student gender support team and policy committee will be combining into one district support committee, which are going to be 12 reps for the remainder of the 2019-20 school year and moving forward. Priorities going into 2021 will include ensuring ongoing professional development and learning for staff, continued refinement and improvement of the implementation of the gender support procedures and policies, and the opportunities for educating and engaging families. We're really excited about the work that has been done. This is not done yet. There is still more work to do in holding our district and staff accountable of causing harm. We want to make sure that we're creating an environment for our staff and our students that is truly inclusive. One of the pieces I would like to name in this public board meeting is, I think that, looking to access to restrooms, it'll be really important for us to model at GEH, for us to move all of our restrooms into all gender restrooms. And so for individuals that are entering GEH who have discomfort around that, the single occupancy all gender restrooms we have created could be for the individuals who need an extra space and not for our family and our staff and community who identify as LGBTQ+ or transgender, gender nonconforming, don't have to walk the extra way and go through the extra double doors or double doors to be able to access that area. I think that's an opportunity for our district office and GEH to be a model for all of our schools in 65. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for the two summary reports?
Yeah, Rebecca?
Yeah, so we received an email from families and asking if we were going to offer the training for families. I didn't see that in the memo. Is that something that we still are planning on doing? Like an update on that.
Yes. So we are planning on that. The memo I sent y'all I'm going to pull this up real quick. I have to find the document. So it should be included in the memo. What you'll see is there's two placeholders for the parent engagement. There's the times, which are 7 to 9 p.m., but there is no dates. The reason why there is no dates is because we're coordinating that with the Lori staff as facilitators. And so those are the two dates they just have not scheduled yet. But those are happening during those times, and it will be May.
I just wanted to take an opportunity. I think we've made some great progress this year, and I'm grateful for everyone who's contributed to that. I think it's important with all of us on this call as we have incoming and outgoing leadership in this moment. We have had some significant impact and consequences for not following through on some of these things historically. And so I know we're in the time of COVID and everything is urgent. I just want to make sure that this, in all of these transitions, is a priority moving forward, that we make sure that these trainings happen for the staff piece, because I do think we have some repair to do for the LGBTQ community. And I know that it's easy for it to get lost with all the new ways of operating and the leadership transition. So I hope that we can, before the end of the school year, really get that schedule nailed down as much as we can with not knowing exactly how school's going to look in the future. And then I just wanted to echo Joaquin's recommendations on the bathrooms. I think it's really important that we change the default, that we create an inclusive space in the bathrooms, and that if someone is uncomfortable with that space, then they can have a separate accommodation, not that the folks from the LGBTQ plus community have to go seek out that separate space. So thank you for that.
I agree wholeheartedly. Joey?
I also want to affirm the work that's been done. This has been a at times rocky road traveled for many people who have had to wait for this conversation, wait for the policies, wait for the trainings, and I think to one of the worst titles for an education magazine, Teaching Tolerance. It's so much bigger than tolerance. It's about acceptance, and I'll say as one of the two white men that I see on my screen here. It's a privileged place to feel like you can try to figure out for yourself who people are. This, both in policy, but also in the execution and the follow through, is an opportunity to change adult behavior and get us all to be better listeners and get us to be more interested in each other in a true way. Without trying to assume certain defaults about one another based on how the world is constructed. So thank you for the work that's gone into it. And hopefully we have fewer consequences as a result of, just the past baggage that's gone into trying to get some of this work done. This has been a heavy lift. It's been really important conversations, and I want to thank the whole team for the work.
Sergio?
Yeah, I wanted to again echo everybody's sentiments. As head of the policy committee, I really think this is an exemplary approach, right? As we approach all different types of policy, and for me, it's important that we're engaging the folks who are actually directly impacted by policy to help shape it. And I just want to remind us that again, because of our institutional lack of acceptance, right? We've gotten pushback from community members who've been impacted by this policy, which again helped us move quicker on this. Again, not as quick as we should have. It's something that I think we should have realized as an institution. But again, it takes, this is the way substantive change happens in education, is that there has to be a push from the folks who have been impacted by these policies, right? You think about the, Brown versus Board, you think about the Lemon Grove incident in California that brought us bilingual education. It was people who were impacted negatively by these policies who have pushed institutions like ours to really make a change. And then representation, right? So we have folks here, representing the community. And it's critical that we continue to, one, make sure that we acknowledge and acknowledge the push from our community members who are impacted negatively by our policy. And at the same time, ensure that there's representation, and also that there's continuity, right? And that we can ensure that those folks are sitting at the table as we implement these policies to help us ensure that these policies are responsive to their needs.
Thank you. Yeah, I would echo all the comments. I think this has been some great work. I would encourage the trainings that the links that are open to staff, are those things that board members can access?
I'm so glad you asked. I was just going to say that. Thank you. So please, board members, I'll be on every single one. Our facilitation team will be there. They'll be splitting people up into groups. So if y'all going to be there, be on time. So yeah, you're welcome to go to any single one if you feel like that. It would be nice to have you dive into one of the trainings, and definitely dive into the part 2 for our deck members.
That's excellent. So I would strongly encourage all of my board colleagues to find a training and sign up for it. Maybe Adila, if you can help us create a schedule so that we don't inadvertently violate OMA, that we can stagger the trainings that we are on. I think we should all sign up for those as well. All right, anything else? Anya?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest that we consider adding this training to our board agreements as we've added SEED and Beyond Diversity. Yeah, and thank you all for your work on this. And I echo business sentiments and making sure that we keep the urgency associated with following through.
I think that's a really great idea. I do want to make sure these are trainings that will be offered on an ongoing basis that board members would be able to access. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think we should very absolutely do that.
Suni, may I add a comment?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to express my sincere appreciation for being a part of this critical work. Not only creating the policy and the procedures, but I think that participating on the committee brought about some really important conversations about protecting the district's transgender and gender expansive employees and students. And I think that such goodwill was done, or I felt that goodwill was done during that committee work, and it was important because harm had been perpetrated in our organization, like every other school organization that I've ever been part of. And I felt that the driving committee work was to make those needed improvements. So I felt it was a privilege. I want to, thank the board leadership. Because this work has come across all layers of our organization, and I feel like we were able to achieve some accomplishments that were a long time coming, and I'm glad that they were here. And I know that Phil and I have often expressed how meaningful it has been to us to be part of this work.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody, those who are on the call and those who were on the committee and doing the work who are not present right now. Thank you to all of you for all of your work on moving us in the right direction on this.
We have more to do.
We have more to do, and we will continue doing it, but at least we are now on the right path to be able to do that. And so I appreciate all of you for helping us get there, or helping us on our way to getting there. With that, we have just one more really very brief discussion point regarding policy 2110. Essentially, this is, typically in a typical year in April or early, late April, early May is when we would be doing our officer elections to do transitions of board leadership. Given everything that is going on currently, we're asking to postpone that so that we would do officer elections in June. So that's not something we need to vote on. The policy doesn't specifically set a date. It just says that we need to do it annually. So we would still be within that time frame of having annual elections. It's just that we are requesting they're postponed just for a couple of months till hopefully things are in a little bit more of a settled place, and then we can work on all of our different leadership transitions. So if anybody has any questions or comments on that? Okay, and then like I had mentioned before, you'll see that there are a few FYI items of things that would have been discussed at the policy committee meeting. Please review those, and at some point, if we feel like we need to bring those back for a fuller actual discussion, we can certainly do that. But this at least gives us an idea of where we are on those issues. And with no further business, I adjourn this board meeting.
I have a quick comment. So one of the FYI items is a really wonderful video from the Wellness Committee. So I just wanted to encourage everybody to watch it. I was a little bit hesitant to share just because it was a little bit difficult to watch all of our students in the classroom again. But thank you to Joey for participating in the video, and just wanted to send a thank you to the Wellness Committee that put it together. Good job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Thank you to everybody who put together the documentation. We do review that, and we will review that. And like I said, we will bring these things back for actual discussions at a later date. So, all right. Now with that, with no further business, I adjourn this special board meeting at 6:43 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe, everybody.